Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Discovery series, and we're going to be talking about secrets of the Bible. In our Secrets of the Bible series, we're going to look into God and His character and to discover more about who our God is, His nature, and His character. So, what's better than to discover God through the study of His names, the names of God? So today we're going to look at the name El Olam, which means the eternal God. You know, when you think about eternal God, what comes to your mind? For me, when I think about the whole idea of eternity, it always reminds me of my mathematics teacher who tried to help us to understand this whole idea of eternity. Or in mathematics, they call it infinity. So on that one day when he came to class and he told us that he's going to talk about this idea of infinity. So he drew out the diagram, infinity, and then he walked to the one side of the classroom and he lifted up his chalk and then he began to draw a line across the chalkboard all the way through. And then when he reached to the other end of the chalkboard, he did not stop. He just continued to draw the line and go around the classroom to all the way to the back. And then he continued to draw the line through the classroom at the back wall. And then he didn't stop either. He continued to draw through the wall of the side of the classroom. And then when he reached to the front door where he came in, he went out. And we saw him, he was continuing drawing the line. And he kept going. And all of us were picking out, where is he going? Anyway, he kept drawing and he disappeared from our sight. And we were like, oh, what's happening? So of course, as students, when we didn't see our teacher, we began to talk and being mischievous that we are. And we were just rambling away and making, all kind of jokes. Where's our math teacher? Are we going to have class today? We waited for the entire period. He still didn't show up. We were like, oh, free class. And then the bell rang and then we had another class. And then the next day, during math class, he appeared again with his chalk and he was still drawing across the wall and into the chalkboard. And then he finally stopped. And we were all like, what is he trying to tell us? And then he says, guys, students, that is not even infinity. Infinity is, the meaning of infinity is the idea of something that goes on and on and on and on. What I did today, continuing to draw, what I did yesterday, continuing to draw the line through the classroom and all the way out and then coming back the next day to be back in the classroom, that is only a minute, a small way to understand infinity. When I thought about this whole idea of infinity, forever and ever and ever and never ending, that helps me to understand our God, El Olam, the eternal God, the God that is forever. No beginning and no end. The God that stretches out all the way beyond time. Let us read that passage, the theme passage that talks about this name, El Olam. Let's turn to Genesis chapter 21, verse 22 to 24. The background of the situation is, this is after the birth of Isaac. Hagar and Ishmael were sent away, and Abraham decided to settle down in this particular area. And Abimelech, the king, came to visit Abraham. And during their visit, they had a quarrel about the wells. And Abraham was complaining towards Abimelech that, Abimelech, why are your people, having conflict with my people about the well? So anyway, they settled the conflict and everything went well. And at the very end, Abraham did something interesting about this whole situation. Let's read in verse 32. It says, after the treaty had been made in Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God, or El Olam. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. Very interesting. After Abraham made the treaty with Abimelech, he planted a tree, a tamarisk tree. And after he planted that tree, he called on the name of God, El Olam. And then the Bible says in verse 34, after he has done all those things, planting the tree, that memorial tree, El Olam, he stayed there for a long time. So what is the significance of the tamarisk tree? What is Abraham trying to say or to tell us? Planting this tree, calling God El Olam, the eternal God. And then he stayed there for a long time. Well, if you look at the tamarisk tree, let me show you a picture. It's a tree that lasts a long time. Can you see the tree? How the tree spread itself out and it forms a shelter for the people. This tree is able to withstand the harsh environment of the desert, and it gives the shade to the people. Let me read to you a quote. Anyone sitting in the morning shade of the tamarisk tree feels its pleasant coolness. If a sojourner or traveler raises his eyes to the tree's branches, he'll be surprised to discover shiny droplets of water on the thin branches. These droplets, most plentiful after a humid night, evaporates towards noon. A lick of the tamarisk branches reveals its secrets. Tiny salt crystals are exuded by the tree into the leaves. At night, as the moisture increases in the cooler air, the water vapor adheres to the hygroscopic salt particles and condense into droplets. With morning, as the sun warms the air, the water evaporates and so cools the tamarisk branches. So do you get the idea? The tamarisk tree, it retains water, it cools the environment. It's not just the shade, but that because of the residue, the water, it cools the environment. And according to science, the tamarisk tree, these are some of the quality of the tamarisk tree, it will spread. It spread very wide. It becomes a shade where the sojourner or the traveler or Abraham can stay there and get the shade, the shelter. And then they feel the pleasant coolness because of the particles of the water. The tamarisk tree is also a windbreaker. You know, in the desert, the wind can be super strong. So the tree becomes a shield, a protection for Abraham or any traveler that is near to the tree. And also according to science, the tamarisk tree is a very hardy, very strong tree. It lasts a long time. It goes beyond the generation and generation and generation. And it's no wonder Abraham calls it eternal. And he used the tree to represent God, the eternal God. Because for Abraham, this tree represents God, that God will give him eternal protection. God will spread his arm to shelter Abraham from the harsh environment of the desert. God will lift up his shield to protect Abraham eternally. And God, the tree, right, just like the tree, God will be there forever and ever. Not just through the generation of Abraham, but Abraham's future generation, protecting Abraham and his generation to come. Is that awesome to understand that? To see that the tree represented, it helps us to understand a little bit more about the eternal God. So brothers and sisters, you might not have the tamarisk tree in your country or in your surrounding. The next time when you go out to nature, when you look around you and you see the trees are very hardy, last very long, very strong, and it protects us, it does give us shelter. When you look at those trees, even though you don't have the tamarisk tree, remember God. Remember that we have a God, an eternal God, El Olam, who spreads his arm eternally to shelter us, who stand up straight like a shield eternally to protect us. And God is a God that is going to be with us forever and ever. And that is what Jesus said in the book of Matthew, chapter 28, where he says, I will be with you forever. So when you go out in your morning walks, when you go out to pray, or when you read the Bible and you look outside into nature, remember God and to give him praise and glory and to know that God is with you, that God is there to protect you. God is there to shelter you. God is there to give you the shade in that intense heat of troubles in our world eternally. Thank you, brothers, sisters. I'll see you again